you got to save the bus drivers' concerns. How close are you? You're working on it, right?
One thing I talked about yesterday at the press conference was that one of my favorite books was a book about if you don't feed the teachers, they'll eat the children. So it's always important that we protect and take care of and provide support to our employees. So really excited about the relationships that I've been able to extend and form in our transportation department, and looking forward to continuing to work to provide the very best working environment that we can in transportation for all of our employees out there.
So what's that mean?
So what it means is that as we look, and one thing's been very unique is that we hadn't had a director in the department for various reasons for 2 years. So I think over that time period there has been some breakdowns in communication that we must own, and a part of owning that is really going in, listening to the drivers. Over the last few months I've met with over 400 people working in our transportation department, and really listening to what their concerns are and their needs, and being very prescriptive in what we're going to do to address that. One thing, as I mentioned, communication. We're doing things now so that we do improve and open up those lines of communication. That's making sure that someone from that group is at the table when decisions are being made, and being able to communicate those back. Improving the website, looking at transparent ways where bus drivers can watch their pay as is in progress. Those are the things that we're doing as a result of the wonderful conversations that we've had with our drivers and our people in transportation.
If you've been working on this, for a while, 4 months, I think you just said, maybe longer than that, then why did they have to do a virtual sick out last week?
So what I'll tell you is that I didn't say 4 months. It's actually been, this conversation came about last week in September. It was about September 25th, and a lot of this conversation came about, and this work has been taking place since Mr. Daigle, who was our director, chose to retire. So after he chose to retire, that's when many of the issues start to rise up as concerns in transportation. So, but again, this is a big department. There's a very diverse group of people, and one thing I'll tell you is that, we hear a lot about the sick out, and I certainly do respect the thoughts and opinions around those people that did go out, but there was never a day where our bus drivers that were out exceeded anything that was not normal. But that just was not the case. But I do respect, again, the thoughts and the feelings of those bus drivers that did choose not to go to work.
25 new buses are on the way, but you still have a fleet of buses that are aging and that are breaking down. I don't see much in your report that shows how you're going to address the maintenance needs. Don't we need to do something with regard to maintenance and keeping the current buses up to speed?
Well, first off, we have to be so thankful to our community. And I'll say thank you again that we did approve an $88 million millage renewal, and that millage does provide for 25 new buses a year. So at the rate we're going, we're looking anywhere right between 2020, let's just say 2024, between 2023 and 2025, we will have a full fleet of air-conditioned buses. So I do think as we add these new buses to the fleet, we're going to see an improvement in that. And again, if you'll remember, we went out, we knew this was a problem, and we went out for renewal back in 2014 that was not approved, where we would have began the process of addressing these bus issues. And that's why, I tell people all the time as we were promoting and speaking to this millage renewal that the one thing that kept me up at night, even, the most, was transportation and the needs that we had for new buses. We do have to replace buses.
You have to replace drivers, too. You have a need for drivers. Where are you on recruiting drivers and getting new ones in place?
We're doing amazing. In fact, so excited that we have, for the 287 routes that we have drivers in those routes. We are looking for 28 additional drivers, and those serve in the sub capacity, so that when we run about 10% out per day, we have drivers that will go into those spots to drive those buses, and we start 26 on Monday. So very realistically, by the end, as we go into the Christmas holiday, we could be 2 bus drivers short. And that's something to really be proud of, because our parish has never seen numbers quite that low. And again, I give that credit to we have a recruiter that works directly with transportation only. That's a position that we implemented about 2 years ago, and that person only deals with transportation. And, one thing I'll tell you, Aaron, is that as you look at national reports across the country, this is a national issue. So really proud that we here in Caddo Parish have filled our seats, and now our goal is to make sure that the working conditions are so that people decide to stay.
And improve their pay?
So, really with pay, what we're doing with that is we're looking at a study of districts like our district to make sure that we're competitive. If you'll remember, Romberg Stover did that study for the district, I think, back in 2010, and those pays were set. But again, our goal is to be competitive. One thing I'll say, and I explain this to bus drivers alike, we have been a very consistent district. Bus drivers have received pay raises in 2014, 5% in 2017, and of course, the legislatures gave a raise this year. But every time we've given a raise, we've given it across the board. So teachers, we've given that to everyone. And there are several school systems that will only give the money to the teachers, but Caddo has never been that parish. So, and again, in that same respect, if it's not based on pay being lower than industry average, the best way to get a pay raise is for everyone to get one.
When we talked to Jackie Lansdale yesterday, she said she was going to or had presented a 10-point plan to you on behalf of the drivers. I'm assuming some of those things were things like new buses, pay, better mechanics, et cetera, et cetera. But as you looked at that 10-point, as you looked at that list, was there anything on that list that you said to her or the drivers that you said, no, that's just beyond our capabilities right now?
I really can't speak directly to the plan because I don't have it in front of me. And what we have worked to is to address the concerns that are arriving from our drivers. And I appreciate that Ms. Lansdale does represent a percentage of those drivers, but we've taken the information directly from the drivers and really worked to address those concerns as they presented them to us. And again, we met with everyone, all 400 people out there, and they all had opportunities to speak openly. They had opportunities to write their concerns, and those are the things we addressed. But Robert, I really don't. I hadn't seen the plan in a few days, so I don't remember what's on it.
Let me ask you about those meetings. You're being applauded for holding those meetings, but can you take us inside them for just a smidge? How hostile were they? Were the drivers really upset on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being they're ticked off?
One thing I'll tell you is that, I do this work for children. So when you do this work for children, what you may call hostile may not bother me because I understand that there is a process that we have to go through.
So it was hostile.
I really don't. I don't know if hostile is what I would say. You would probably have to ask the drivers that. I just heard people expressing their concerns and people that just wanted to make sure that they were working in the best environment possible.
Were they yelling at you? Were they yelling at you?
There was. I don't know. There was no yelling. But again, I came in absolute peace, as I think most people know I do, and I'm here only to help solve the problems.
So is in your mind, for lack of a better analogy, is the cork back in the bottle? Things are back on track. No more calling in sick. We're okay for now.
What I'll tell you is that, we are working toward being the best environment we can be. The first thing we have to do is find the right director to go in and to help build that capacity and that work ethic back in our transportation department that may have been, lacking in the last few years. So we're working towards that. But, and I do appreciate that my drivers understand, and I've had several conversations in the last few weeks with them about this problem is not going to be perfect overnight. But a teacher's classroom situation is not going to be perfect overnight. But we have to keep working as hard as we can towards that goal and can remain focused on children. And it's so many drivers that did not take off sick because getting children to and from school and to activities was more important to them. And again, I just applaud them all for that.